I'm Ruth Daniel. I'm the director of Fat Northern Records based in Manchester. It's a small independent label. But along with the label, we also are the founders of Unconvention Salford that happened in October 2008.
I'm Dan Thomas. I'm a part of Fat Northern Records as well, and one of the co-founders of Unconvention as well.
My name's Jeff, and I also work for Fat Northern Records, and also helped set up the Unconvention in Salford.
Well, we were invited to come along by Nick and Tracy, who organised this event here in Belfast. Yeah, Jeff.
Well, no, yeah, more personally, we set up an event in Salford in October, and it was kind of, we felt that there wasn't a conference or a voice or a get-together for people who are working at a very grassroots level of music. And so we just we were getting frustrated by that in Manchester, and took upon ourselves to put something together and sort of threw out the idea of Unconvention, and we're quite taken back by how many people got involved and drawn in and excited by the idea of just having something that's more for people DIY level, or, you know, self-releasing bands or anything like that. So we just did it, and we're, as I say, quite excited by the people that got involved. And then I think the guys from here, Nick and Rich and Tracy, sort of turned up and thought, shit, I don't know what he said, but, you know, this is actually quite an exciting idea. We should maybe, I'm speaking on their behalf now, but I think they kind of inspired them to sort of think, well, maybe we should try and do something similar and see what we can get together, and hopefully there's many more will follow. So this is the second of what we hope will be.
I think some of the other people as well who came along to the first Unconvention have been inspired as well to do something similar in their region. So we've got a guy from Wales who wants to do one there, someone in Barcelona wants to do one entirely in Spanish, aims around the Spanish music industry, and someone in Reykjavik in Iceland wants to do one there. So it's kind of, the idea is kind of catching on, and I think it's something that's not really catered for at music industry conferences. It's very much they're usually aimed at the top end of the industry, so major labels and that sort of thing, whereas this caters for bands who are kind of being proactive and doing it for themselves, independent labels, and people who run a record label and have another job, you know, people who do it for the love of doing it, not necessarily for the money.
Oh no, the whole ethos behind Unconvention is about the grassroots industry, and it's about the industry that ticks over constantly, and it's not about the major industry, and it's a conference of people at our level, whether you're in a band, whether you're a promoter, whether you run a venue. It's something that people can take seriously, and somewhere where people can go and get actual real answers. The amount of music conferences that I've attended and been to, I'm not going to name any specifically in the city, but the amount that I've been to that don't actually make any sense as regards to the grassroots industry is ridiculous. You know, I'm sick and tired of going to a conference and seeing somebody that directed the first Led Zepp video, you know, and tell us about how it was 50 years ago. He might as well bring out his dinosaur eggs and impress me with that, you know.
I think that's the thing about Unconvention. It is aimed at people who are working at this level, who are doing it now, and who can share their, advice with other people who are actively doing it, rather than people who sort of did it 20 years ago, and, you know.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, by the way. It's just, it's not relevant to everyone, is it? That's it's interesting to find out about this stuff. But I think what we found, and I'm not speaking in the mic, what we found is there's just a genuine void. What it appears is that although that's interesting, it's not necessarily relevant to someone who's thinking, you know, if you're young and you're either in a band or you're excited by music, how do I make something happen? And bigger conferences are 10 miles away from where you're at that point, and I think that's kind of where we are. We're kind of like, well, we still want to know how to make things. We've been doing this for like 5, 6, 7 years, and we still don't know how to make, you know, we don't have the answers. Don't get us wrong. So it's exciting to find out what other people are doing and how they're doing it and what they're finding along the way.
I mean, I think think the thing is, in Manchester, it's got quite a strong musical heritage. So it's kind of, people do pay attention to Manchester. I sort of found that recently. I went to a conference in Birmingham, and I'd never really thought about it before, but Birmingham really struggles to kind of make its mark on the musical map. Even though there's loads and loads of bands that have come out of Birmingham, people in bands don't tend to shout and scream about it. They kind of tend to be a bit embarrassed about it. So I think regionally people have got their own specific issues. I think Manchester doesn't have so much of an issue about its location, because the whole factory thing, Manchester,
it's kind of part of when we started doing what we did. Is, I mean, the music industry has been London-centric for 40 years, 30 years, and despite, there's obviously was scenes in Liverpool and scenes in Manchester and scenes in Glasgow and scenes in Sheffield, but it all then, the industry side of it, not the band side of it, the industry side of it, was dragged to London. I think probably what Belfast are now trying to think, and what Birmingham are trying to think, and what Manchester's trying to think is, well, hang on a second, this is our creative output, this is what we do, and how do we make things happen? And I don't think we necessarily, Belfast is probably asking, well, how do we become, how do we create a scene and but Manchester's probably still thinking the same thing. Yeah. Factory in Manchester and all that. I mean, it's a fucking long time ago.
That's the thing. I think that's what we've kind of, because we're kind of like quite sort of new on the scene. We get a little bit annoyed by everybody kind of talking constantly about factory records, Tony Wilson, and I sort of feel like it's time for a change in Manchester. Whereas I guess some cities don't have that kind of heritage. It's kind of about starting and getting a musical brand for the city from scratch. But I think every place outside of London has its own sort of specific problems, and that's why hopefully if we can do.
But also, it's sort of
merits as well. Yeah,
exactly.
totally,
I mean, that's
totally.
what people probably miss out is, what came out of Sheffield and what did come out of Manchester. And I'll be honest, I don't know Belfast very well, but there's probably some absolutely brilliant things happening here that kicks the shit out of what's going on in London and what's going on in the mainstream. And what if we're aspiring to the right things, is if there's great bands here playing to great audiences, does it matter that radio one aren't playing them? I don't know. I mean, maybe not, probably not. No, who cares?
Thinking sort of locally again, with the internet, everyone started to think big and started to think, right, well, we can sell records now in the States, we can sell records in Australia, when actually, if you can create a scene in your city and you've got, or in your country as it is, here, then, you can probably do just as well as selling products kind of a bit all around the world, And I think it is now, I think kind of it's better for bands to kind of work on that small level, create a buzz at a local level, and then kind of build it up from there, rather than, I kind of think, MySpace has kind of lost its charm a little bit, and to just go back to those traditional ways of getting fans engaged, getting them coming to your gigs and stuff, there's a lot to be said for doing it that way.
It's great, and as I say, I mean, we're pretty ignorant about what goes on in Northern Ireland, as much as we're ignorant as what goes on in Glasgow or Edinburgh, and and Leeds, and Liverpool, and it's 30 miles away. And good things or bad things like this it's positive, because we've come to learn about new stuff, and people, when Nick and the guys came out of Salford, I think to be able to start doing a bit more of that, spreading locality, and don't worry about taking the world on. Let's just tell each other what we know. And I'd love to send Belfast to Belfast and get them over, and we're not doing it. And it's what, 40 quid on the plane, and there's ways and things we should be doing that we're probably not doing right now. And at least we're starting to think about it, which we weren't doing last year or the year before that. So let's see what happens.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you thank us now. But
Any final thoughts?
Should we do the song?
Yeah, go on then, Jeff.